July the 1st, 2016. I'm Dana Durnford, your host, nuclearproctologist.org. And you can find these videos, A Beautiful Girl by Dana, and throughout the internet. The Goldstone, or the Goldschmidt report is out. And physics.org has ran a little hit piece on it. They claim that the initial releases of the radioactive material, one of the largest nuclear accidents. Now, Fukushima has 3 melted reactors. Chernobyl was just a single reactor and was 1/3 the size. And the amount of cesium released was 1/50th of the weapons, apparently, according to these crazies, and 1/5 of that released by Chernobyl. And is similar in magnitude to the intentional discharges 137 from nuclear fuel reprocessing plant Sellafield. Have people lost their minds? Physics.org doesn't put no author's name to this. And Chernobyl, let's bring that up. Chernobyl, hell on earth. This is 2006, John Vidal. And so this is pre-Fukushima. Look at your third sentence down. For 4 days, or 10 days, spewed the equivalent of 400 Hiroshima bombs worth of radioactivity across 150,000 square miles. You can go read the article yourself. It's been repeated many, many times. Many times. 0.8%, so less than 1% of children in 2001, now 36%. So 13,600 do, and 24,000 don't have issues with their thyroid. This is 2012. It's 2012. So 36% increase from 2001. That's a pretty good model. But if you listen to physics.org, who doesn't put any name to it, and who is their geochemical society, basically. Goldschmidt was in this year was in Japan, 2006, the conference. That's one we're talking about. The Goldschmidt. One of their studies is carbon-14, and carbon-14 is made in nature. Carbon-14 is Mother Nature itself, and in the reactors, carbon-14 ratio is about 1 per curie, or 188 to the 37 billion power, or 188 times 37 billion. Sorry. So every 88 times 37 billion atoms produced, you got 1 carbon-14. But that's radioactive, true radioactive, because it came from a chain reaction, from fission. It never came from space. It's not the stuff they talk about from space. See? And this is how they confuse you, manipulate you. But they put out that study about Fukushima, saying that's the one they should be looking for. So that organization coming out and saying that, and let's come back to that, they're saying that Chernobyl was worse. Okay, so Chernobyl lasted 10 days. Chernobyl lasted 10 days. Hang on a second. So Chernobyl lasted 10 days. It was equal to 400 Hiroshima bombs. And so that's 30 years ago times 365 days a year. So now you got to multiply that by 400 every 10 days. And if Chernobyl had to last until now, Chernobyl would be equal to 4.4 million Hiroshima bombs. If Chernobyl never stopped after 10 days. Does that help you understand what I'm talking about? Okay. But Chernobyl stopped. Now Chernobyl was 1/3 the size. Chernobyl was a 30% meltdown. Chernobyl was using graphite. Chernobyl, there's over 3 million children with disabilities, according to Kofi Annan 2001 United Nations, on the podium, from Belarus and Ukraine. 3 million children permanently affected. And according to the New York Academy of Medicine, that released a study of 5,000 translated studies from Ukraine and Russia, over 1 million people had died, but that accident had only lasted 10 days. Chernobyl didn't stop. Let's bring that up. Fukushima didn't stop. So that's reactor 4. Here's reactor 1. Look at the spent fuel pools at the roof of it. And number 2 is all gone. That's confirmed. They shot the Murons device through it and it's gone. This is unit 3. They don't need to shoot that device through unit 3 to know that it's all gone. Same thing with unit 4. It's all gone, but you can see it's destroyed all the way to the ground. That's why they tore it all apart. And the fuel pool and the reactors were up close to the roof. That yellow cap is supposed to be in the center of the building, up close to the roof. See that yellow cap on it blew off. And they left it there to confuse you, that's all. So you got 4 100% destroyed that still have it. This was mixed oxide fuel 2 million times worse than any other reactor on the planet, including Chernobyl. Well, let's go do the math on Fukushima compared to Chernobyl, now that we understand the difference in the sizes. And so the numbers would work out for per building in Japan. So each reactor is 3 times the size. And then it was, in Chernobyl, it was a 30% meltdown, rather, and Fukushima was 100%. So you have to add another 3, plus 3. And this has 6 times the size. And now you have to take into consideration, in the building was 10 years of reactor cores. And so that's 5 reactor cores if you change it every 18 months to 2 years, which is what they do. So now we plus 5. But instead of that, we're going to plus 30 something. So because it works out this way, you got 5, and now you got to multiply it by 3 because of the sizes that were the reactor cores stored in the pool areas because of the meltdown. What we're talking about is meltdown. Chernobyl was 30% and 1/3 the size of the reactors in Japan. So once again, it's 15 and 15 is 30, and we have 6. So 36. So we'll do plus 30 to give us 36. So each building in Japan minimum was 36 reactor cores, not taking into account of how much more toxic and dangerous the fuel was. But just running under the Chernobyl scale is 36 per building, and you have times 4 buildings that lost their inventory. So that's 144. Now, what was the riddle for Chernobyl? Let's bring that up right quick. Chernobyl, hell on earth, was 400 Hiroshima bombs every 10 days. Yeah, 400 Hiroshima bombs every 10 days. Okay, so let's multiply our number for 10 days. And I smurfed it up already. So that's okay. So 144 times 400 every 10 days is our 10-day number. That's what Fukushima has produced in a meltdown. Now take that number, and then we look at the 5-year times 365 days. It's like 1,800 days or something. Divide that by 10. And you got 182. So 182 times 57,600 is how many Hiroshima bombs worth of radioactivity is capable of coming into those reactors in Japan over the last 5 years when you used the Chernobyl model. Is 10,500,000 Hiroshima bombs. And, okay. So when it comes to hell on earth and the comparison, verse 400, right? 400 versus 10 point. I'm sorry, I'll bring it up here at some point, I'm sure. 10 point. I'm going to click on the wrong one. 10 point. Calculator, Dan. 10.5 million Hiroshima bombs is the difference. And so when physics.org is telling you what do we know 5 years on, one of the equations that they didn't put into this is the fact that I covered 260,000 miles of the coastline, 260 days of the coastline, 15,000 miles. That's a representation of the coastline of Canada. The arrows are areas where I hung out and put that documentation up at the nuclearproctologist.org of that coastline. And I'm just going to give you a rough understanding of the difference between what they told you and what I went out in the boat in a crowdfunded operation and I show an extinction event. And let me just break that down for you real quick. So if you look at that coastline, British Columbia, you can see all those fjords and islands and inlets where the arrows are to. I know I can do a better job than that, hang on. So look at the coastline that we done. This took 260 days and 15,000 miles of the coastline. And we done it in this operation right here. And so it was hellish to do it. Now normally that same spot, which is Louise Narrows, would look like that. Instead it looked like this. So instead of being healthy and magnificent and incredible, unimaginable, unbelievable, wonderful, amazing, scary sometimes, but just this smorgasbord of life. These are often the same spot that I'm going to show you. Now the whole coastline would look like this, but and like we done the whole coastline, but these pictures I got loaded up for that one particular spot. These are pre-Fukushima, post-Fukushima, and that's a pre-Fukushima, post-Fukushima, pre-Fukushima. And so the whole coastline was devastated. So pre-Fukushima, everywhere you went was crazy. Now Louise Narrow looks like that. And so this is a very special spot in Canada that people from all over the world came to see, and that I went out on the Expeditions for Life, and that's me on the beach right there. And the beach should look like that, where I'm to. Not like that, see? And that bird that was over my head there could have been that same bird there. And now he looks at this. Instead of that, he's looking at this. Now we put all that documentation with the GPSs up at the website. But physics.org has chosen to ignore that. Physics.org has chosen to claim that these species that you're going to see coming up here, post-Fukushima, there was only 4 species of worms. Pre-Fukushima algae was 600 posts throughout the coastline. When you added it all up, were the numbers of posts. Not in, you didn't find this in every spot or something. This was the total number. It was completely destroyed, as you've seen in the pictures. But we did find traces of the species, and so that's the numbers we got there. 78 species of sea anemones, we only found 7 species. None were thriving. And the same thing with the starfish. No young starfish. And then for birds, they were decimated. For the mussels, decimated. Barnacles, decimated. Periwinkles, decimated. The 6,500 invertebrates, like little shrimps, decimated. This is an extinction event. And the 4.5 million other species, 4.2 million other species, didn't fill up that empty coastline. Now it's empty. Why didn't they fill it up? Because they're missing. So why did 500,000 birds just die, starve to death up the coastline with nothing in their stomachs? Not diseases, not parasites, not toxins or dioxins or mercury. They died of starvation. Same as the whales. Because the anchovies, the herrings, the sardines, the squid, the krill have all disappeared now 3 years in a row, and everything is emaciated. And so physics.org got to come out and tell you these fantastical tales about how Fukushima is nothing compared to Chernobyl. I can assure you that's not true. When you look at the pre-studies, the known studies, right, pre-Fukushima 0.8% had issues with their thyroids, and then after, almost 14,000 did out of 40,000 tested. Yet they hide that away. And we covered that extensively, how they done that and who done that. Kathleen Higley from America was one of these people, and Jerry Thomas from UK was another person that was in charge of these studies. And they talk about bananas and potato chips and walking in the sunshine and getting on airplanes and claiming, well, there's more natural radiation than there is man-made, therefore nothing to worry about. But when you look at the studies from Dr. Raymond Gilmedi, hang on. When you look at the studies from Dr. Raymond Gilmedi from Loveless Respiratory Research Institute, and I know this is going to turn into a nightmare for me very quick. We'll do it this way just so we can read those studies. Toxicity of inhaled plutonium dioxide. This was from a chain reaction 238. 144 dogs. Look at what happened to all the dogs. But this happened for 35 years. And this also happened in every lab. Every animal died, no matter what the animal was. But that Dr. Raymond Gilmedi has 94 studies. But look at the numbers. Tumors of lung, skeletal, and liver occurred beginning about 3 years after exposure. Bone tumors found in 93 dogs. Most common cause of death. Lung tumors found in 46 dogs. Second most common cause of death. Liver tumors were found in 20 dogs, but were the cause of death in only 2 dogs because they had so many other tumors. Study after study after study after study. But in reality, curium was the biggest producer of isotopes, not carbon-14, not cesium. There's no cesium reactor cores. There's no iodine reactor cores. Uranium reactor cores. Yeah? And all the daughters, everything come out of there is a daughter of uranium. Everything that comes out of the chain reaction is man-made. Everything that comes out of the chain reaction has a label for terrorist laws and for nuclear waste sites. And so the people that tell you it's like natural radiation, or the people that tell you that, like physics.org done, that is insignificant compared to Chernobyl, is 10,000 times Chernobyl, 10 million times Chernobyl. Chernobyl was 400 Hiroshima bombs. Or not 10 million times, but it's 10 million Hiroshima bombs that we can use on their scale, but we're talking about a different type of fuel in Japan. It was mixed oxide, reclaimed uranium, reclaimed plutonium. So it was already gone through a chain reaction. All the reactors had plutonium in it, and plutonium is man-made. We created the plutonium that we put in there, and we reclaimed it from the nuclear missiles. It's known as mixed oxide, fuel. But what it means, though, is it's 2 million times worse than Chernobyl, that single building. And so it's 4,500 times worse than all the reactors on the planet combined. So if you go back and do my math again, you probably won't sleep tonight. Hugs for everybody. But that's the whole point of it. We got to come out and, like physics.org, you got to unsubscribe to that. Physics.org, you got to demand accountability. You got to demand these people actually put their names on the articles. They don't just yank it from some other study. Why not yank it from my study of the coastline of North America? Why not bring up that documentation? Why not talk about that? Well, when you take into consideration the sea urchins die, was a study, let me reset that. The sea urchins die, no worry about urchins. So this was the Smithsonian talking about a study where 200 miles of the coastline of California in 2014 were extinct of sea urchins. And so they called a mass mortality for the entire Pacific Ocean. And then not only the Smithsonian, but National Geographic also carried that same study, right? So I've done 15,000 miles of the coastline, 260 days, and we show an extinction event of all the species. And that you can find this documentation up at the nuclearproctologist.org. See, I know I put that on up there for some reason, because I knew one day I'd be in this particular format, and I would, because normally I'm in that other format, which I'm in right now. So hugs for everybody. And I'm working on software, I'm working on trying to get my life together. It's 2 whole years. We spent 260 days on the ocean. And then I've been attacked non-stop since I come ashore, and I've been out fighting this machine because I don't see anybody out there really bringing the fight the way I bring it out, with the documentation and the information in that context, where it's an educational experience for the people that are trying to understand it, for the people that are trying to appreciate it, for the people that are trying to wrap their minds around it, for the people that are rightfully worried about it. And you should be worried about all the lies they tell you. You should be worried about the fact that physics.org is putting out articles where they claim Fukushima is insignificant, where it's 1/5 of all the weapons testing, when the numbers of the actual, a meltdown cannibalizes also everything around it. We're just talking about the inventories. In a chain reaction, it'll cannibalize everything forever. It'll atomize and aerosol and ionize and radiate and release that into the environment constantly, perpetual. That's why they call them breeder reactors now. Like Japan has gone the very best way towards poisoning this planet, for destroying this planet. And the dispositions from the fallout stretched right across, and I covered it in a video earlier today, I'm not going to bother with it right now, but all the way across the Pacific, non-stop plumes. It never stopped. But this is documented from the Norwegian Institute for Air Research and many other institutions. The plume stretched non-stop, like an invisible snowstorm, all the way across and the width of the Pacific, all the way across in the width of the North American continent, all the way across in the width of the Atlantic Ocean, and all the way across in the width of Europe, continuously. And it never stopped coming out of there. It never stopped going into the ocean. It'll never stop. The whole country has already picked up 30 million bags, 1-ton bags. That's enough for 5 rows of traffic around the entire planet. And every time you hear cesium, remember, the reactors are running on uranium. And these were liquid uranium cores, not liquid cesium cores, not liquid iodine cores. These are just the byproducts, insignificant byproducts. The actual biggest byproduct, the biggest isotope production, period, of any of these is curium. And curium acts just like plutonium or americium or neptunium. And the studies from Dr. Raymond Gilmedi are the definitive case studies, where all the dogs died all the time for 35 years straight. 94 studies. You can go look at the bananas and fruit flies studies all you want, but until you face the reality and look at the real studies and the thousands of Dr. Raymond Gilmedis every country that are doing these experiments and killing these animals have never survived, why do you think when they release it in an accident it's going to be any different? Hugs for everybody. Take care, folks. We'll see everybody next time.